We're at 10 already. All right, let's do it. Welcome to another episode of Mindset Mastery. I'm your host, AZ Araujo, and we have a very, very good subject in hand, and I think it's going to really assist you with what you have to accomplish this week. So as you're coming on, go ahead and check in. Good morning, Dorlee. Good morning, Isabel. Olivia, good morning, Audra. Good morning, Patrick. All right, so today's subject is hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We've all heard this, right? And it kind of comes into the line of, are you an optimist or are you a pessimist, right? When you prepare for the worst, some people will take offense to that. It's like, no, it's going to happen. I have a positive mindset. And I'm going to tell you something. That's the mindset that I had for many, many years, that, it's going to happen. I'm not going to fail. I'm going to move forward. And when you say the word hope for the best, let's go ahead and replace that and put that as an expectation, right? When you hope for the best, it becomes an expectation. It's going to happen. And what that ends up doing is that it really doesn't allow you to really think about what if it doesn't happen. And when it doesn't happen, it becomes very devastating. And we don't understand why we don't have the motivation to get up and do it again, right? Because our expectations were just so high. It's going to happen. And for me, the biggest lesson in that was when I opened up a franchise. We invested our life savings. We got a small business loan to supplement that as well. So we have our life savings plus a small business loan, and we leveraged everything. I ended up mortgaging my house, my primary residence, to have more cash available. And I even went as far as to get credit cards, right, and pull money from there. And I'm like, it's going to happen. I'm not going to hope for it. It's going to happen. And Carla and I would constantly bump heads because she would often ask, what if it doesn't? And I would be upset with her, like, you don't have faith in me? You don't have trust that I can make this happen? This is something that we've prepared for. It's going to happen. And again, I would look at her as like she doesn't have the faith that I do, that she's already thinking that the worst is going to happen. The worst is going to occur. She's actually giving bad energy to me. She's a pessimist. I remember thinking. And here I go at it at 100 miles an hour and constantly just hoping for the best and knowing that, hey, this is going to happen. And here's what ended up truly happening is it didn't work out. And I didn't have a backup plan. And when you don't have a backup plan, you drain your energy. You drain your resources. You drain your ability to now figure something else out. You debilitate the ability to make good choices, and we shut down because we don't have a backup plan. And that's exactly what occurred with me. I completely just shut down because I didn't have that backup plan. I refused to look at the realities that sometimes I will fail. And when the expectation was so high and I failed so miserably, it debilitated me. I went into a depressive state, into financial ruin, and didn't realize that I could do something about it because the expectation was just so high, and I refused to look at the fact if it didn't work out, then what? And here's the thing. If Carla was with me in that same expectations, then we would have never got out of it. But because she prepared for the worst, she was able to carry our family through. She's the one who actually took care of all the situations for us. She met with our attorneys. She met with our CPAs. She settled on our debts. While I was pretty much helpless, where I was depressed, where I was helpless, she had the courage to continue to move forward. Why? Because she always planned for the worst, not because she was a pessimist, but because she realized, hey, listen, if it doesn't work out, I'm going to have an action plan to keep moving forward. This is not going to kill me. This is not going to debilitate me. And I'm just simply planning. And it happens so much here in this industry. We get into this industry and we refuse to look at the statistics that nearly 90% of individuals, it's like 87%, nearly 90, will fail. We refuse to look at that and say, I'm different. I'm going to just keep hoping for the best. And we set that expectation. And then when things don't happen your way, you become that statistic that you refuse to be because you didn't have a backup plan, an action plan in case it did fail. In case that open house, nobody walks through. But the expectation is so high. I'm going to have so many people come through. I'm going to get a contract. I'm going to submit an offer. You go 3 days at your open house. Nobody walks through. And then what happens? You go into the same feelings I went through. Feeling helpless. And when you feel helpless, you don't have an action plan to go at it again the following weekend. And that's why most only hold 7 open houses and then quit. Because the expectation's so high and they refuse to have a backup plan, an action plan. And this is looking at the realities. It's not about being a pessimist, right? Or an optimist. It's not about that. It's about just realizing that, hey, listen, I'm going to work my ass off. But just in case, what am I going to do if something does not work out? That's all it is. It's not saying that you're preparing yourself for failure. It's preparing yourself for success. Because the odds are, if you're pushing hard, you're going to fail. You're going to face the obstacles. Your job is to understand, what am I going to do right after? When you lose that listing appointment, what are you going to do right after? And you can go in there with all the optimism in the world. You can be very prepared to get that listing. But what happens if you don't? I'll tell you what happens to most agents. They shut down. They stop marketing for weeks. They self-loathe and go into this pit for weeks because of that listing that they should have got. Because they failed to prepare for the worst. So you have to look at it that way. Success comes with failure. Success comes with failure. It is your job to determine, what are you going to do next? Because I let Carla fight this all by herself. She carried all the burden while I was in this place of victimhood. Woe is me, in this dark place, shutting down from my family, shutting down from everything. Because the expectation was so high, I cannot fail. I'm going to do it. Refusing to look at the statistics. Most businesses fail. But what are you going to do afterwards? So we lay in this self-pity. We do nothing about it, making the situation worse. So I want you to think about where you're at right now. Are your actions as intentional as they were when you first got into this game? Or just because your expectations haven't been met, you're self-loathing. You're questioning yourself. You're doubting yourself. When in fact, you have to realize this business is full of failures. Your job is to determine what next and then keep moving. It's refusing to look at the facts and the possibility that it won't go your way. That completely shuts us down. And I've seen it time and time again. I see individuals coming into this with pure fire on social media, reaching out to their clients. And then they don't get a response. I want you to prepare it right now. What happens if you don't get a response? What are you going to do about it? Because the odds are you won't get a response. Just because you got a wild hair up your you-know-what to market your butt off, now you expect everyone to come and give you their business? It's not going to work that way. So as you're making these videos, as you're sending these emails, as you're making these phone calls, text messaging your sphere, what are you going to do if they don't respond? I'll tell you what most do. They stop doing it. And then they're convinced in their mind that it may work for others, but it just doesn't work for me. So as you're sending your text messages today, what are you going to do if nobody texts back? Simple plan is, I'm going to text more people. And then, in about 2 weeks, when it comes around to texting that same person again, I'm going to forget what I did the prior time, and I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do. Because I have an action plan. And this goes for all facets of your life. We set the expectations so high that when we don't feel that same, when we don't get that in return, we start feeling bad for ourselves. Case in point, workouts. I love working out. I love the way it makes me feel. I love the power that I obtain after a great workout and how it carries me on through the day. I know all the benefits of it. But what happens on those days when you don't feel like doing anything? You know what I do? I self-loathe for a little bit. I'm like, I can't believe it. I don't feel like working out. Dude, why am I feeling this way? I know all the positives. So, we self-pity. We self-loathe. We shouldn't be feeling this way. Or we can have a backup plan. We can have a backup plan. It happened with me last week. And the way you do it happen is just write 3 things that you're going to do. And sometimes we just have to go through the motions knowing that there's an outcome at the end. But it's having that action plan. I'm not just going to sit there and be like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. And I did that. And it was a quick conversation with Carla. I'm like, dude, like, I know how I should be feeling. I know the benefits. Why do I feel like this? One answer to that could have been like, just don't do anything today. Give yourself permission. Yeah, that's good. But then I know the guilt that I'm going to carry on later on that day. So that really isn't an option. Or lower that expectation thinking that you're going to have to be there for an hour and just go at it for 20 minutes. Just go at it for 30 minutes. Write down 3 things, follow those 3 things, and see how you feel about it afterwards. That's exactly what I did. I did supersets. 2 exercises done back to back. And then for a total of 6 exercises total. Guess what? I had a hell of a pump. And I felt good. Because if I would have refused not to do it, to lay in that pity, I know how I would feel right now. But it's about preparation for the worst. And it is our job as parents to do the same thing. Madeline, my daughter, my 10-year-old, my enlightened one, my little Buddha, always thinking ahead, always thinking something bigger. I was getting ready in the bathroom. She walks in, and she's like, Dad, do you know that men die first? Are you going to die first? I'm like, no, baby, you don't have to think about that. I'm taking care of myself. Something you don't have to worry about. And I think that's our job, right? To make our kids feel better. But it goes beyond that. What happens if it does? What happens if it does? Are we preparing our kids if something devastating were to happen? Or are we just giving them this false sense of hope that everything's always going to be okay? And then we question why we have rampant depression and anxiety in this world. Because there's lack of preparation. I could have stopped it there, much like the advice my mom would give me. No. If you just, everything's going to be okay. You don't even have to think about those things. The conversation could have ended there. But what if it does happen? And guess what? I had a conversation like that for my 10-year-old. Because this is not the first time we've had this conversation. So it's my job to prepare her for it. And I said, it's okay to be sad. I'm your dad. If it does happen, it's okay. You could be sad. But I don't want you to give up your life for mine. I don't want you just to stay in that sad place because I'm going to be watching you, baby. If I'm no longer here, I'm going to be watching you. And everything that I showed you and everything that I taught you, I want you to keep moving forward. I don't want you to shut down your life and feel bad that I'm not here. I've lived my life. And my job was to prepare you for your life. And she's just sitting there, listening to me. And as she's listening to me, those teardrops, those tears down her cheeks started to dry up. And I said, that's what I'm preparing you for. Because I'm not going to give her this false sense of hope, because what if something happens? If I don't give her this advice, what is she going to do? Is she going to go into a depressive state because I'm gone? I don't want that for her. So I'm having real conversations to her about that. What if it does happen? And I gave her that feeling of hope at the same time, where I said, I'm still going to be watching you. And the last thing I want you to do is to shut down your life. And we had this conversation with my eldest, my 14-year-old. She has on her phone the phone numbers of our attorneys and our CPAs in case something happens to us. We've created a trust in case something happens to us. We prepared her just in case something happens to us. I'm not going to give her this false hope that everything's always going to be okay. But it is her job to move forward. There's an action plan there. She has it right on her phone. And we prepared this with my parents, with Carla's mom, with my brother, because these are the realities. I don't want them to waste years of their lives trying to figure it out, feeling sorry for the situation. They must know they got to move forward. And that is our job, to have those real conversations and not just give them a false sense of hope. It takes work. And just like we're preparing our kids, we have to prepare ourselves. I'm going to give you some pointers that I use. Some pointers that I've used and that I've learned over the years on how to be able to have that hope, right, of success, but also prepare for the worst. The first thing is have an immediate action plan. Have an immediate action plan if that listing appointment doesn't go your way. Have an immediate action plan if that offer that you submitted that was really strong, AZ, we didn't even ask for closing costs. If you're not prepared for it, you're never going to prepare your clients. And your clients will lose faith because you have no action plan. How about having that conversation? The market is really hot right now. And if the home is priced correctly, odds are there's going to be multiple offers. Odds are you're going to go up against other people. And you don't know how many times they've been through that process themselves. You're feeling sorry because you lost 2 in a row for your clients. What about that other person that lost 10? But there is no preparation on that. How about you prepare yourself and you prepare your clients just in case it doesn't go your way? What action plans do you have? Or are you putting everything on this? That when you lose it, it sucks the energy from you. And your clients can feel it. And they lose that confidence in you. Or do you have a showing also scheduled for this afternoon, just in case? Just in case. And I'll tell you what, I hear these complaints often. I can't get my offers accepted. You're focusing on the wrong thing. Then keep going until you get it accepted. That is the major difference there between a veteran, high-producing agent versus those that don't produce often enough. They get devastated because that offer of the house they really loved, they lost it. What's the action plan? So number one, find things you're going to do right just in case it doesn't happen. Of course, you're going to do your job. Of course, you're going to go above and beyond to try to make it happen, to be successful. But what if it doesn't? What if you don't have that motivation to go to the gym? Then what? Maybe the simple action plan is just go out for a walk. But it's doing something towards that. Progression. That's what the game is about. Not laying in that pit, but progressing after a disappointment. That's my greatest strength, is my ability to keep going after an obstacle, after a disappointment, after a failure. As most wallow in the self-pity of darkness, I'm taking forward to keep going. I'm taking my steps forward to keep going. Number two, on how to prepare for the worst is self-reflection. Self-reflection. Understanding that you have full power of where you allow your emotions to go. Full control of choice. Full control of keeping control of the emotions, right? And the actions. Reflection. You've been here before. You've been devastated before. You've failed before. And as opposed to thinking about the pain that it brought you, think about how you got out of it. Think how you're still here in this game. If you had the capacity before to overcome, why aren't you crediting yourself for whatever obstacles in front of you today? In fact, that self-reflection will allow you to propel forward, to forge forward. This is not the first time it's happened. Why do we act like it is? Why do we act like it's the end of the world? Self-reflection is key to this. Odds are that whatever you're going through is not the worst thing you've been through. Whatever you're going through is not the worst you've been through. So why do we act that way? Reflection allows us to understand that we've overcome, and it is our job to continue to move forward. This too will pass, but it will only pass when you understand the first thing to do, right? That you have freedom of choice to control your actions, to control your emotions, and to keep moving forward. So self-reflection is key to this process of growth, of overcoming this devastating situation or traumatic event or disappointment. Number 3, there's always a greater lesson to everything. Why is this happening? Why does it continue to happen? What is the real issue? We have to look at these failures as an ability to build capacity on how to be able to pinpoint what are the behaviors that help me succeed versus what are the actions and behaviors that allow me to fail. There's lessons in everything. But I couldn't see that when I lost everything. I just couldn't. Today, that's what's made the strength of this company. I'm a better businessman because of those failures. And because I understand that I always have to prepare for the worst just in case. I'm an optimist, true and true, to the core. But it doesn't mean you're a pessimist if you plan out just in case it doesn't happen. So there's always a greater lesson in this. If somebody walks into your open house and you don't have the answers of the neighborhood, if you don't have the answers of the school, guess what it just did? Instead of feeling like a failure that could have been a potential client, they just pointed out your weaknesses. So go correct those weaknesses. Become the authority of knowledge. So when it does happen again, you're well prepared. But yet most will feel stupid about the situation. Helpless. Like, I don't know enough. Versus, I'm going to go find out. There's always lessons. When you lose that listing appointment, what could you have done better? That was a learning situation. Not for you to shut down and believe that you're never going to get another listing appointment. You're just going to get better because now you know what kind of questions your clients will ask. There's a lesson in this. So what are you facing right now? You got to look at a different perspective. And that's all it is. Number 4, I think this is important because we feel when we're in this place of failure, we lose confidence in ourselves. And we think somebody else has it figured out. We wallow in this place of pity because we think somebody should come and save us. That there should be this miracle of transforming the series of events that led us here. I'm going to tell you something that really helps me out. And I think it'll help you out as well. What advice would you give if your child was going through this? Or a sibling? Or a loved one? Someone you truly care about? What advice would you give that person if they were in your situation? You'd be surprised how powerful we are. We have all the solutions. But after a failure, we lose all hope for ourselves. We lose that confidence in ourselves. So we can't be right. So when you're in that place, what advice would you give your daughter or your son that's facing the same obstacle you are? Huge disappointment? Rejection? What would you tell that person? And after you think about what you would tell that person, I want you to take that same advice because it is dead on. It came from your heart. It came from your soul. You're 100% correct. I need you to listen to yourself. Don't wait for someone else to come and save you because that's never going to happen. And you're going to be too afraid to try it again. So again, when you're in that place, what advice would you give to your loved ones? And then I want you to follow that advice because you have the answers. Number 5, appreciation. You're resilient. Oh man, you're a resilient person. Just look around. Holy shit. The things you've been through. The things you've been through. The things that were done upon you. Holy shit. You're resilient. You're relentless. You're fearless. You're powerful. I want you to appreciate yourself because that would allow you to stand up strong and understand that that situation doesn't define you. It's just a moment in time. It's so important that you're able to simply just look in the mirror and appreciate the person that continues to move forward. And although these feelings of despair come at us, you refuse to stay there. And now the game becomes about staying there less and less time. That's where real growth happens because it's going to happen again. But unless you appreciate yourself and be grateful for who you have in your life, all you do is waste time in that self-pity. So I want you just to have that deep sense of appreciation. Look at your kids. Look around. Look at your family. Look at yourself. There's so much more to be grateful for you to be so selfish, to be in that place of pity and sorrow. It's time for you to stand up because you're bigger than that. You're greater than that. So, we all should hope for the best. We all should. But let's be unstoppable by also preparing for the worst, just in case. Where we have that action plan, just in case. And this applies in all aspects of your life. Your business, your family, relationships, kids, health. We all want the great things in our lives. But it just takes one step further. Just in case. All right, guys, what are you hearing in this conversation? What are you hearing? I'd like to get some feedback here before we wrap this up. All right, we have Jeanette Owen and full control of how you react to things that come up. Well said. We are those people. We are those individuals. And you gotta feel that power. That it's only a matter of time before you figure it out. You know, one thing that I've said before is like, I don't have it all figured out, but somehow I always figure it out. Like, embrace that. You always figure it out. After you get out of your own head, your job is not to let it linger for weeks and months at a time until you finally can muster up the courage to get out of that. Like, be intentional about it. You have full control because you've always figured it out. We have Bridget. I used to lay in a pit when deals would cancel. I would lose potential buyers, etc. I would stress out and would literally just dwell at home doing nothing, feeling sorry for myself. My problem was I was stressing because I didn't have any money in the bank. I have learned now. I will always lose potential deals, yes, and clients for a lifetime. But if I have enough deals and other clients, I will never become dependent on one deal that falls through. Such a great lesson. And I'm going to go ahead and expand on that here in just a second. Now, I do not dwell when a deal falls through. I expect it may happen, but I focus on my other clients and getting more. Sometimes we do have all our eggs in one basket, right? We get that one deal and all we can do is cater to that client. And we're wishing it's going to, we even plan what we're going to do with that money after it closes. I have some debts to pay. I have some bills to pay. I'll even have enough money to go do this, that, and the other. And when it doesn't, because the expectations were so high, we're devastated. Bridget has a great plan now. It may fall through. But her job and the lesson she's learned is that it is her job to get more clients, because if everything's right in that one deal, it's not your client's fault if it falls through. It's not the mortgage broker's fault if something falls through on the mortgage side. It's essentially your fault for not having more clients behind that, for not generating enough leads, for not marketing enough. That is the real lesson. And that is huge because that changes perspective. Now that lays the responsibility strictly on Bridget. And she's learned that through years of laying in that pit. And now, chances are that your deal has a possibility of falling through. What are you going to do about it? And how are you prepared just in case it doesn't go through? That's a great lesson. And you can remember that, Bridget, because sitting in that pit was painful. You lost power. You lost focus. And now it's like, okay, this is a deal in escrow. There's a possibility of me getting paid. It doesn't mean it's guaranteed. So I better do my due diligence to go find more deals, more families to help. So you're not devastated just in case it doesn't. Because we have that plan just in case it doesn't. We got Nick. Thank you for sharing that. Bridget, I can tell that you reflected on who you used to be. Like that's huge. And I do that every time. Like, man, I was helpless. And I feel so bad for the way I showed up. I left all the burden on Carla. She took us out of this mess because I was too weak to move forward, because in my mind, it wasn't supposed to happen this way. I could only imagine how much more powerful it would be during that time if I just simply took a moment just in case it didn't happen to work out. Instead of leaving her all by herself, adding that additional stress on her. She could have had a man backing her up, but she didn't. I was a weak boy. It hurts to even think about it. She carried the entire load, the entire burden. And there's some of us right now, when things don't go your way, you completely shut down and you allow your partner to carry on the entire burden. You give it on upon your kids to carry the entire burden. It's not right. Mistakes make you better. Yes, they do. Nick, keep moving forward no matter what. Laura Lee, this is all much needed today. Glad it resonated with you. You become fierce. Damn right, Jeanette. Holy shit. Look at you. You become fierce. Because that sense of appreciation of what you've been through already. Patrick, a sound backup plan will take some of the anxiety away with execution. Yes, that's what it really does, right? It really helps you out later on. Just in case. Just in case somebody doesn't walk through your open house. Just in case you don't get those return phone calls. Just in case your lead doesn't return your phone calls. I mean, all this is just relieves the anxiety as opposed to just focusing. Well, they have to. People will come through. I'll get some deals. Appreciate the losses. That's when you learn the most. Appreciate the rejection because now you can tweak and change your approach to your client. This is fire. Eric, absolutely. It doesn't mean you're a failure if it doesn't go your way. It's like, oh, I need to learn this. This is a skill set within the 1,000 skill sets that I need to become a master at this game. So I just learned that. Thank you very much. I'll check that off. Now I got to go learn those other 1,000 lessons, aka 1,000 other failures before I master this game. So thank you. Check that bitch off. And I'm moving forward to learn my next lesson. Dallas, good morning. Cindy, sitting here in the hospital with my daughter because they thought I should be here. They went with another agent. They thought, I should be here. Okay, I get it. Even after I told her I had no problem showing them homes today, I know there's a reason for that buyer loss, just moving forward and focusing on the next. They out-of-state buyers. I completely get it. I completely get it, Cindy. And unfortunately, from their perspective, that is your problem. And it's hard to say, right? And we've been through that situation before as well. As devastating moments, we just have to make a choice of what we feel is right. And if that choice is yours, then you own that, right? I choose to be here, and you own it. We've been in many situations, rollover accident with my daughters, that we understand that, people can't stop their lives when something happens to us. When Carla's dad passed away, we understand that people need to get paid, that people still need to move on with their lives. But whatever decision we make, we just must own it. We must own it. And we have a backup plan with everything now. If something happens, we have protocol that, we just take full control of that. So you know what to do, Cindy. Well, thank you guys for joining me for another episode of Mindset Mastery. I hope you enjoyed this. So many great lessons. Take some time to reflect on the lessons that life is teaching you. And just make sure to prepare just in case things don't go your way. And we have one more. I no longer fell into a place of doom. It's crazy. It makes me more relentless to go after it, to get after it. There's power in everything. It's all about how you look at it, the mindset. And you're able to back that up with how you've changed your life, Michelle. There's a resilience about you, right? And somewhere along the lines, it's like being able to now distinguish what are the steps that got you there. And you'll find the 5 things that I went through, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's right, I do that, which is an amazing thing. I know that when somebody puts up a framework around it, I'm like, I did that all the entire time. I just didn't know that there was a framework. So as I go through the top 5 things, you'll see some similarities of the things you've done, right? 1 is find 3 things you can do immediately after that. That means just not asking yourself the question of now what. 2 is reflection. Like we've all been through some heavy stuff in our lives, and and it's reflecting on where we're at now, right? And what are you learning? What is the lesson that life is teaching you? Number 4, what advice would you give to others? Like if that was your daughter or a loved one, knowing that we have the answers. And finally, that deep sense of appreciation for who we are and our courage and our resiliency. So these are all the great steps, and I'm sure you found, some of the traits here that you do in these 5 steps. But guys, I want to thank you for joining us for another episode of Mindset Mastery. And until next time, I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Bye now.